So where did I end up?
In Sandon, British Columbia, one of the two ghost cities of Canada, nestled up in the Selkirk Mountains of the West Kootenays, where I have been living, working, and playing for the past 6 months.
When most people think about the Wild West, they think about the gold rushes, right? Not many people talk about the silver rush, and that's what Sandon and its surrounding area was all about. Now, discovery had happened on September 9th, 1891. Jack Seaton and Eli Carpenter were walking up on top of the Payne Mountain and discovered a silver seam. Took some samples back to Ainsworth Camp to find out they had come upon something. Then, the following year, 1892, this here was the biggest piece of galena ever found, weighing 125 tons. And that there is what put Sandon on the map. This here is a piece of galena, and that is a mixture of lead, zinc, and silver. I've got a couple samples here. This would be a poor quality. The bigger the flakes of silver is and the wider the grains are, the less quality of silver content is in it. This here would be a better piece. As you can tell, it's a bit of a tighter grain. And this one here would be your best quality, and you can see nice and tight grains in that one. So I have a sample here. This is just a plain river rock, nothing special about it. That's a piece of galena. Now, you can't really tell the difference too much of them by just looking. The only way you'd be able to tell is by weight. And this is probably about, I don't know, I want to say 10 times more in weight than this one is. So if you find anything heavy in the creeks, crack them open. You never know what you'll find. So a few years later, this was the beginnings of Sandon. So not much going on here, just a couple buildings, a few people. Then all of a sudden, the Great Northern Railway and the Canadian Pacific Railway made their way into Sandon. And boom, you had a full-on city. Shocking in 1 year what they accomplished. So this here is a great overview of the city itself. The city ran along this way here. And back here would have been all your industrial area. The Great Northern Line came in this way from Caslow into Sandon. It made its way to the neighboring community of Cody, where it had a wide track to turn around. And the Canadian Pacific came in on this side here from Nakusp to Sandon. Or it would be barged on the Slocan Lake between Roseberry and Slocan. They used a turntable to turn the train around in Sandon. This is another great view of the city. As you can tell, this is a street lamp. Sandon was the first fully electrified city in British Columbia. Seeing as we're looking at light bulbs, check this out. So this was a pretty cool find. One of our campers had found it. They had moved a fire ring to a different location, and they ended up hearing a pop. And they had realized that one of the logs was burning, so they started digging to put the fire out, and they had found light bulbs, like tons of these little light bulbs. And what's unique about them is how old they are. So on the bottom here, you can see that it is ceramic. These were done before 1901, because that is when they decided to change to glass bottoms. So these are like pre-1901 light bulbs. Pretty freaking amazing. I like the fact they're hand blown, so you can see there's a bit of a nipple here at the top. And the filaments, unfortunately, I don't think you can get a good view on the video, but they're pretty cool. These are 110 volt DC, so it was before it was converted to AC. Yeah, so if you don't know what DC is direct current, and AC is alternating current through electricity. And what was awesome about these finds, after testing several of them, there were a couple that still worked. So we'll just turn this on. And there you go. And there's a lot of heat that's coming off this. Not that you get to feel it, but trust me on it. And then we have a great collection here of different size bulbs. And this one even has a date on it. Looks like a 3/27/99, and that would be 1899. I really love this picture. It really shows the depth of the city itself. Along this route here, you would find
businesses like a butcher, tailor, banks, and such. You would also find 29 hotels, and 28 of them had saloons. There was roughly 5,000 people who lived here, approximately 250 operating mines. And on a Friday or Saturday night, there could be up to 8,000 people within the city. So yes, it was a hopping place, and it was wild. And with so many miners and that many bars, of course you needed a red light district. And that's exactly what they had. One of Canada's largest districts, known with approximately 80 brothels and 150 working ladies. And here is a couple of the remaining ones. And this one being the Madam's house. Oh, what stories I'm sure they could share. What a life. Oh, this looks cool. Almost looks like a stretcher or something. Maybe if you guys left here with some heart attacks, you never know. Oh, this looks like an old outhouse. Seating for two. Yeah, I don't think I could be that close. I know there's a wall in between, kind of, sort of, but that's still too close for comfort. There was also sports to keep the men busy. The ladies, too. Like billiards and bowling, football as well as baseball. They had a combined curling hockey rink. Of course, skiing for all the snow they get in these mountains, along with several clubs. And for you hockey fans, there was a guy named Cecil Ralph Thompson, a.k.a. Tiny Thompson, who played for the Boston Bruins from 1928 to 1939 as a goaltender before he was traded off to the Detroit Red Wings, where he had finally completed his career after a second season. He was born right here in Sandon. Unfortunately, Sandon met its first devastation, and the city burnt down. And all that was remaining was this livery barn right here. And that is where they keep the horses when the pack trains would come in. Now the fire happened pretty fast, and as you can tell from the pictures previously, that the buildings here were pretty close together, and they're all built out of wood. So it was just like lighting off a matchbox, and poof, there goes the whole entire city. Now they did have fire hydrants and everything in place, but by the time the team got together to fight the fire, there wasn't really much they could do. So they just focused on the livery barn to save those horses. So this here is 60 days after the fire. Now the original street ran right along here, but when they built the new city, they moved it on over here. And now this is not a road, it is a boardwalk. So what they had to do was build a flume to deal with their sanitation. So when they were building the new city, they continued on all the way down the creek, and then they built a boardwalk over top of that. And then they built the city facing the boardwalk. And this is a good picture here of the flume with the boardwalk and then the city heading on down that way. So this right here is the old flume and boardwalk. Now, when they first built it, they built it with 90-degree angles in it. And maybe back then it made sense. And over the years, it most definitely served its purpose, because that's what they used to build the new city on. And the boardwalk was kind of like a false road in a sense.
This is another great picture of showing the new city. There's your boardwalk there, and then you have the city here. And it went, of course, a little farther down this way. And this here is the building that I'm in presently.
The 1900 City Hall building that once housed on the third floor a courtroom and judges' chambers. Second floor, police and clerks' offices. First floor, which was the basement, was the fire hall, jail cell, and boiler room, until 1920 when Sandon became unincorporated. From 1920 to 25, a police officer lived in there. From 1925 to 54, a schoolhouse. From there, it was to be torn down and the wood reused. Thank goodness it did not meet this fate. In the late 1980s, it was sold to its present-day owner, Hal Wright, who has spent many hours over the years and continues to do so, restoring it to resemble its history.
And this here is a 1905. As you can tell, the city most definitely was not as big as the first one. They separated the buildings here, so they got more gaps, better for fire management. In 1933, Sandon saw its second devastation, which was a washout. So you can see quite a bit of land damage done there. And this is what Sandon looked like in 1942. There was about 50 Sandon residents living here at the time. Then all of a sudden, 950 Japanese Canadians were brought here to be interned. Sandon was designated as the Buddhist camp. The abandoned houses and buildings is what became their homes. A church by the city hall became their temple. Sandon was the first to shut down after 2 years in 1944, and the Japanese Canadians were relocated to the neighboring communities. In 1955, Sandon had yet another devastation happen, and this is what made Sandon a ghost city.
In 1955, it would be the last time that boardwalk would ever be utilized. There wasn't very many residents living here at the time, and no one was really taking care of the flume underneath the boardwalk. And due to the freshets that they have here, sometimes they can be pretty intense. And you get a lot of debris that comes down from the creeks. Well, needless to say, after some time, that debris started to log jam up underneath. And then one day, the water said, "I'm coming through," and the boardwalk's going. And that's exactly what happened. As you can see here, it did a pretty good job ripping it up.
Here's some more pictures of that devastation that left behind. And then Sandon also had an avalanche at some point, but I'm not sure of what year that was. And then they had another washout, really not that long ago, just in 2020. And this here is the devastation it left behind. So I showed you the 1933 one here, and that's the 2020. It's the same area, same buildings in the background.
The 14th Mountain Bistro is the newest addition that opened in 2020, where I have mostly worked this summer alongside with my sister. She is one of the 5 full-time residents here in Sandon.
And here you'll find her story, as well as her absolutely delicious menu. That's what her 5-star Google reviews have to say. And I have to agree, it's pretty good. So the buses were intended to be restored, one going back to each of the 15 cities that ran them in Canada. But unfortunately, that project has been put on hold. And in the meantime, this is where they stay. And they entertain quite a few visitors. Due to the fond memories of riding them, I've even had the pleasure of meeting some of the drivers of them. In a way, the buses do belong here. They were electric.
Speaking of which, let's go check out the hydroelectric generating station. This here is now Canada's longest continuously running hydroelectric power generating station. It's been providing the cleanest and greenest electricity for 127 years. It supports roughly 400 homes in our neighboring communities of Three Forks, Silverton, New Denver, Roseberry, and Hills.
So this cylinder is an air compressor, also a condenser, and it would go up that pipe up there all the way to the Slocan Star mine that was way up above. Apparently this cylinder is quite unique because it was never welded. It was built like the Titanic in a way, with rivets. And then this black pipe right here is what brings the water in. So that water comes from 600 feet above us, giving us enough pressure to create hydroelectricity. It comes through the plant here, underneath this, and then it spits out just down here. We call that Little Niagara, because if you didn't know, Niagara Falls was the very first place where hydroelectricity was introduced. Let's go in, check it out. Warning, it is loud in here. This here is the Thomas Edison electric mining lamp and its battery pack. The batteries were charged through electricity. This is the rack that the batteries would charge on. Once charged, they would hook it up to the lamp, and that would give them about 12 hours of light within the mines. Each battery had a number designated to it that was designated to a miner, which actually was quite helpful because it let people know which miners are still down in the mines. You know, just in case something were to happen. Pretty good safety feature, I have to say, considering way back when. This is the original control panel and the breakers. The middle section of the power plant is the original power plant, built in 1897. Its last upgrade was in 1916, when the new heart of the power generating station was brought in, changing it from DC to AC. And this here is your Tesla generator. This here is the pressure valve, letting us know how much water pressure is coming into the plant. And it travels through the pipe here into this turbine, which is run by the Pelton wheel. Over here we have the brains of the operation, the governor. Its job is to keep the plant operating at 360 RPMs, which keeps the electricity at a constant frequency of 60 hertz. This section was built in about 1917, when this big old Fairbanks Morse engine was added. This section would be the latest addition in 1951.
when this practically still new Blackstone engine was put in. I say still new, for it was never actually used. Though once a year it does get fired up on the Saturday of the Canadian Labor Day long weekend. So here's an original fire hydrant and a sample of a Pelton wheel and what it looks like. Of course, the one inside is a little bit bigger than that one. And this here is some old remains to a concentrator mill that was here, which I'll be taking you up above so you can see the rest of it. So here's an old cabin. It's in actually pretty darn good shape considering how old it is. I'm not sure if it's pre-fire or after fire, but even still. And I think we veer off here onto a little trail. At least I hope this is going to take us where I want to take us. Here's that cabin we just saw, so we're just up above it now. I guess this would have been a bench. And it looks like there's another one down below there. There must have been quite a few cabins up in this particular spot. Here's another old shack, not in nicest condition as the other one. This one's actually being pulled upright by a cable. Too funny. But it's doing its job. All right, so now we are coming up to the mine manager's house. Ooh, missing some floor there. We got a fireplace, so I guess this would be the living room. I'll take it this is a kitchen. The bathroom, possibly a shower in the far right there. I'll take it this was the master bedroom. This possibly another bedroom. Oh, that floor is so dippy. Feels like you're gonna fall through it. And conveniently had a shed from, I guess, the kitchen to right here. So here's some old machinery that I imagine was used for the concentrator mill at one time. Oh, we even got a tram bucket here. That's what they would use to bring the galena down from the mines up above, and sometimes transport some people. So the mine manager's house was pretty darn close to its mill here. Some old rickety stairs. I think we'll just take the path up. Cool. Oh, another tram bucket there. Still has its arm attached. And I guess these would have been the footings for the tramway. Probably more so up this way. A lot of the visitors who come to Sandon don't even see this part. It's kind of tucked away, and if you don't go exploring, you don't necessarily find it. And there's my home just down below. So this part here used to be one of the sawmills that operated here in Sandon, for they did log all their own wood. And here is my home. A non-electric campsite. I've been living true to my van life. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit of Sandon as much as I've enjoyed sharing it with you. I also want to let you know that 90% of Sandon is private family owned. And with that being said, they get no government grant funding at all for any of their restoration projects. So if you do come up here for the day, or even better, come camp up here for a weekend, make sure you spend a little, whether you buy something or you donate. It helps the cause and keeps Sandon alive. Until next time, take care of yourself, enjoy your life. Bye-bye.